if your calendar doesn't match your values, eventually you will crash and burn. But you know what days I'm talking about, the ones that feel like you're white-knuckling your way to the couch, where you're looking at your calendar, you're looking at your day, you're looking at your tasks. You're like, as soon as I'm done, I can rest. As soon as I'm done, I can turn on Netflix. As soon as I'm done, I can unplug. If that's you or that's ever felt like you, this conversation is your interruption because it's part 2 with my brother, Taylor Cavanaugh. And we get brutally honest very quickly in a short episode about the lies that we tell ourselves, the slips that happen that we pretend aren't happening, and why we even convince ourselves with that feeling of like busy and successful still leaves our soul feeling empty and like there's no progress being made. And so we break down and talk about how becoming perfect at resetting instead of being obsessed with perfection is powerful. How to use friction as training instead of a threat, and tactically how to run a subtraction playbook on your time, your habits, and commitments so your life finally matches what God or the universe keeps whispering to you. So if you are tired of trying to survive or surviving those days that you're supposed to be living, this episode is a hard reset, break check, and a line in the sand. And so let's dive into the show. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Mind of George Show. I am stoked because we got the man, the myth, the legend, at least that's where I have him, who's now a closer neighbor, even though we've followed the same trajectory a few years behind. My brother, Taylor Cavanaugh, is back on the show. So Taylor, welcome back, brother.
George, I appreciate you being here and everybody tuning in, man.
Yeah, of course, man. And for anybody who didn't listen to the first episode with Taylor, I'm going to have it linked in the show notes, but you need to listen to the episode with Taylor. It's really good. But like, just to give you a reason as to why, because on that first episode, we talked about his story, and he has lived the life, went from jail to Navy SEAL to back to jail to suicidal to the French Foreign Legionnaire, and really has dedicated his life to like self-actualize and follow God's plan of understanding like discipline. And now he spends his time on a mission to show others like how to realign, not the word alignment that we throw out. Everyone's like, ugh, but like what that actually means, like, so that you can experience peace and clarity by training your mind as well as your body and doing it deliberately. And so I'm honored to have you back, brother. And I want to dive right in because we're doing I'm going to call this the power hour, but it's like power 40 minutes of episode.
Yeah.
And I know what we're going to get into. And so first thing is like, you're somebody that I look at and I watch you, I consume you, I follow you, that you like embodiment. If I open the dictionary of like what consistency and discipline looks like, I feel like I see your face and I see your picture. But like for everybody listening, like how would you define consistency and discipline? Because I feel like most people have the wrong relationships with those words.
Yeah. First off, I think discipline, it has to be zoomed out. So does consistency, right? And discipline is really, it's a conviction. So discipline really is, people talk about purpose and why, but your conviction, it's even rooted deeper than that. It's on a cellular level of who you are. And the discipline is is downstream of that, right? Once you have the conviction that you're this person that's going to be tenacious, like talk about like lava, just this consistent force that just continues to push forward regardless of the external circumstances. We talked, George, about these external circumstances that, man, who cares what happens? It's when you really know who you are and what you're about, it's easy. I shouldn't say easy. It's simple to continue to push forward, because what's the alternative? You're not a quitter. You're going to keep going. And the discipline is the mechanics of how that actually breaks down, right? And so that's how I think about, but it's not about perfection. It's about persistence. And this is the one thing that people get, I think they kind of the wires start touching. They're like, well, I'm obviously not consistent because I'm not perfect. Yeah, but do you consistently keep going? Perfection doesn't exist. Remove that from your mind. Poof, like the samurai talk about, practicing the perfect day, knowing you'll never achieve it. What are you doing from now until your deathbed? That one meal you messed up, that day you didn't go work out, that this and that. If you look at it on a massive scale, it's not even a blip on the radar. right? And so that shows that you're consistent. A great line in a movie is, what was it? Remember the Titans or something, where he
Yeah,
goes,
yeah,
we strive for perfection. He goes, we weren't perfect as a team. We weren't perfect as an individual, but we're 10-0. We're perfect as a team. And that is that macro, right? That macro is you kind of zoom out. Now, there is a fine line of where people can justify things. That's where it's not a science, it's an art. And that's where that
yeah.
goes, oh, well, I don't got to go to the gym today, but then not going one day turns into a week. And, oh, I'm just drinking a little bit every day. It's being self-aware enough to recognize when that slippery slope is starting and being
Yeah.
consistent and having enough conviction to reset it. Be perfect at resetting. That really is how I think of it. Be perfect at resetting and going back and remastering. Be perfect at going back to the beginning and when you recognize you're slipping. You can be perfect at that because you're never going to not slip and you're never going to not fall off the horse. So that's kind of like an intertwined thing, but it's definitely not a cut and dry thing, but it's this moving, amorphic topic that kind of weaves in and out of each other.
Dude, I love that. I love that definition because I think, to your point of, if you're listening to this, you're like, oh, I don't struggle with perfection. I'm like, rigidity is the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Rigidity is this same thing because, you said something that I want to ask about, because you're like, it can get slippery. And I know
Yeah.
for me, it gets slippery when I start to believe the lies that I tell myself, right?
Oh,
And really
1,000%.
what's underneath it is this lack of self-identity, right? So these
Yeah.
stressors in the world, not only are they influencing and I'm allowing them to influence my behaviors, but what I'm doing is I'm picking up those stories and I'm tying them to my identity and to my worth. And
Yeah.
so what's your advice for the person who's like, yeah, but I constantly slip, right? Like I was joking the personal development board, like if you've ever had a different boyfriend in the same breakup or a different boss in the same result, then it's the
Yeah.
mirror, but
Yeah.
you have to be willing to look at it. Like, how does somebody become self-aware, to be honest with themselves, to be able to navigate this?
Yeah. I like a little simple technique to do. Look at yourself in the mirror, in the eyes. We might have talked about it before, George. Look at yourself in the eyes.
Yep.
We all look at ourselves in the mirror brushing our teeth, but have you really stared and looked at yourself in the eyes? Dude, when I've been at some times where I've been lying to myself, I don't know if I could really do that. If I think I wouldn't even be self-aware enough to make myself do it. So sit and look at your eyes and really ask yourself, are you embodying the person that you desire to be? And then getting honest. And Jordan Peterson talks about this. Like he goes, so when you sit on the end of your bed, we know the things we should be doing and the things we shouldn't be doing. We know. But some people dull things out, and the minute they get up, they look at their phone. And then oh well, I got to get up, take care of the kids, and so I can't have time to think. Yeah, because you're not getting up early enough to take the time to do this. Like, don't lie to yourself about the reasons why you can't get honest. That is 100% that honesty about where you're failing and really where your moral flaws are, your character flaws. That's first, because you can't fix shit unless you know actually what the problems are or where you need to identify, and then actually listening to it and doing it, right? And then here's the thing, not thinking about forever. Take drinking. Take drinking, for example. Guys will have this thing, and I know I did it myself, where it's like you sit and you go, oh, man, I gotta cut back on the drinking, or I gotta this. Oh, dude, I'm not gonna be able to not drink the rest of my life. And so I'm just not going to start today at all, or I'm not even going to taper back. And so it was this, and it was like that for drugs for me with opiates. I would be like, dude, there's no way I could not take some opiates or something forever. So how about I'm not even going to try today? Because if I can't do it forever, that's that idea of don't worry. Well, who do you need to be a little bit better today? Getting honest with that and then addressing those things immediately is the first step, because they're all just lies. Going back to what you said, they're all just these lies about what you're doing is who you are. I heard said, this guy goes, if somebody was going to critique you on your squat, right? You go, hey, you need to open your feet up a little bit, or because nobody turns to him and goes, yeah, but that's who I am, right? It's like we don't attach these like techniques about how we communicate with people or how we have anger issues or they're just techniques, or you're using drugs, whatever it might be. It's like they're just techniques we're doing to get through life. But when somebody external goes, hey, dude, you should try adjusting these things, nobody goes, well, that's who I am. It's no, they're just what you're doing. It's not who you are. So don't lie to yourself and weave these things so deep that are very, very topical. And you can give yourself a little bit of space between incorrection and correction and simplify your life down a little bit and then reassess. Like it's going to need constant reassessment. So give yourself a little bit of grace and slow the down so you can start to see these things clearly. And I'll turn it back to you, but something that I realized before we got on this call, when I was like, sometimes in my life when I wasn't adjusting things, what was I having trouble with consistency or being a better person? Dude, I couldn't even really identify how I was incorrect. I don't even think I kind of knew, but I wouldn't even admit it. And nobody could tell me about it being wrong because I was lying to myself about the external achievements. Oh, I had a job and the chick and this and that. And so obviously it's not wrong. Yeah, but is your life on speed wobbles? Do you feel like do you not at least get honest about what your soul's telling you?
Bro, I resonate so deeply because there's a few things that you said that I want to unpack and maybe just have your thoughts on because they landed for me. Like I was a 40 a day opiate addict while I was high functioning, right? And
Yeah,
the amount of times I kicked it, I was like, oh, I'll never take it again, right? And then I'd see one in the cabinet 9 days later, I'm like, oh, I can just take one, right?
yeah,
And then I'll just take 3, right? And it wasn't until like I fully gave my life to Christ that those things were removed. But what was underneath it is that I was trying to survive every day. And
yeah,
so all that world noise I was taking into my identity because it was really like white knuckle survival. It wasn't like, oh,
yeah,
I'm building something. I'm building myself. And underneath it, maybe the term would be like a fear of responsibility, but it was really like this fear of being my best, like that I didn't
yeah,
deserve to be my best, right? And it was these sneaky things over and over. And one of the things that you talk about a lot is, I love the way that you say it's not about perfection, it's about persistence, right? But I remember I went through these moments where I'd be, when I lost 100 pounds and kept it off this time, where I was consistent for like 12 months and I never
yeah,
missed a day. And then all of a sudden, I missed a day and I'm like, oh my God, like I did all this for nothing. Now in the mirror, I still had
yeah,
a 6-pack,
yeah,
but I couldn't see it. And I'm like, oh my God, it's all done. It's ruined, right? And that like
yeah,
one moment, like poo-pooed on everything. And
yeah,
when I hear you talk about it's not about protection or perfection, it's about resistance, but it's also about resetting and recovery.
yeah.
Like, what's your advice or like how do people navigate that? Because I think you call it like after the slip protocol, but like how does somebody shift their perspective and be able to stay in that because they're worth it over and over again?
Yeah. Once again, it's the zoom out. What is the aggregate? What is the aggregate drops in the bucket on the distance and the vision of the long time frame of your life to the deathbed? This is like I talk about when I work with guys. I go, dude, this is not a program. I don't care if we're working together or not. This is what you do now. This is who you are. And so I'll have guys hit me up and go, dude, I up or I had a bad weekend or I blew it out. Now the old lady kicked me out or whatever. I go, good. And they're like, what do you mean good? I go, good. Well, now well, I can't, no, just start Monday. That it doesn't matter. Who gives a shit? Yeah. Okay. You're going to have some damage control, but you're not gonna be able to get control or fix anything continuing down the path. So really the only option, because we already know the fact that you're going to fall off. All of us will in some
Oh,
capacity, in some way, just varying degrees, right? Now, ideally the falls get shorter, but it's how quickly you get back on. And that's really the true sign of somebody who's becoming more and more of a master of their life is how quickly they can reset, right? What did ruin a day or a weekend or a week now ruins an afternoon or an hour, right? Or you slipped and you broke character emotionally, or whatever it might, however it transpires and translates for each individual is a little bit different. Everybody's got their
Mhm.
proclivities and their weak points. It's about being honest about the assessment. And really, I don't like putting too much shame and guilt on it because it's such a low vibrational place. I don't like people to stay there. I go, get over it. Stop feeling sorry for yourself and get up. Feeling sorry for yourself is actually pretty pathetic. And I know because I've been there, but I've lived there a lot. So I'm not pointing fingers, but I've had many, many a day licking my wounds, feeling guilty. And guess what we're not doing when we're doing that? Anything. We're not building. We're not moving forward. We're not getting better. We're not being responsible. We're hiding, really hiding from what we want to do. So getting back on the horse and the slip protocol is recognizing where it happened, what led up to it, fixing what you can, because there are amends that need to be fixed at some times. But the real amend is by changing your actions, right? But it's like it's changing your actions. You're not really sorry if you do it again, and so that's the thing is like you could be apologetic for the damage, but are you really apologetic for the actions leading up to it? And that's something that I've failed at many times in my life, right? It's like, was I really sorry if I did it again? Maybe not, right? And that's then therefore it can't be some external thing. It has to be like you have to be doing it for you at a really, really deep level of need. People and maybe want is better. Who knows? Whatever that emotion is, it has to be. You have to want to get back on the horse. You
Mhm.
have to, and that's the only option. And that's the perfection piece and the consist. Can you consistently get back on the horse and be persistent about getting back on when you slip? When?
Yeah, I I wanna I wanna make tangible one of the things you said because as you were speaking, I realized how deeply it landed for me. But when you were talking about people's proclivities and their recovery periods, right? I remember those moments where like some of those relapses would lead for like a year, right?
Yeah.
And then they were 6 months, then it was like 10 days, and then it was like an hour, and then it was like, what am I doing now? Like in the moment, right? And I
Yeah.
think shame and guilt continues to spiral those patterns, but grace is what allows us that perspective shift. And for everybody
Yeah.
listening, like this could be
Ooh,
a
well said.
conversation. Like this could be a conversation with your partner and spouse where like you lose it and you end up walking out of the room and you're like, oh, and there's this moment where you're like, what am I doing? Well, you have
Yeah.
two choices in that moment. You either have ego and you get to be right, or you have grace and you
Yeah.
get to handle it. And
Yeah.
grace is like, hey, honey, I'm sorry. I realize I
Yeah.
stormed off. I'd like to apologize and reset this. Or it could be, I didn't go to the gym, but it's only 6 p.m. You know what? I can go for a 15-minute walk because I caught
Yeah.
myself. Like there's no finish line to this. And I love the way that you
Ooh, I
say
like
this.
that.
There's practice, right? And one of my
Yeah.
favorite quotes is a student says, I already know, but a master says, thanks for the reminder, right? You never
Yeah.
stop practicing this over and over. And so if you're
Oh,
listening to this,
man.
there's so many moments in our day and in our life, and it can be so small, but every one of them is an opportunity to flex the muscle. If you're like, I'm 2 cups of coffee in and I've had no water today, well, the moment you
Yeah.
have that awareness, that is
Yeah.
God giving you the ability to reset. And so it's not,
Yeah.
I'm going to go get a hypernutremia and drink 2 gallons of water. It's like, hey, you know what? I'm going to drink some water, I'm going to prioritize this, and I'm
Yeah.
going to recover. And so I love the way that like you describe that because it makes it so real. And I think underneath it, to tie this together, if your identity is dictated by the results instead of by the process, you're always going to lose this game because
Yeah.
all these things that we desire, they never last, they never stay. It's a pursuit of
Yeah.
them over and over and over again, right? Even our Bible tells us, like, pick up your cross and follow me daily. That means last night at midnight when I fell asleep, everything that I
Yeah.
achieved is
It's
gone.
done. Yeah.
And it's like, hey, do you want to eat tomorrow? Like, does your future self want to eat? Like, what buckets do you want to eat in? Because the
Yeah.
choices you make today, your future self is going to thank you for. And so, I love that. And one of the things that I've noticed is that none of us are impermeable to the outside world. And
Yeah.
there's moments that friction is created. But one of the things that I love is like your concept of friction reps,
Yeah.
because when I think about these moments of like, you were like, how quickly can I get back on the horse? Getting back on the horse has nothing to do with the result that it was created. It has
Yeah.
everything to do with like feeling that feeling of resistance and then
Yeah.
choosing to do it anyways. But it's almost like we crave pleasure so much that we
Yeah.
avoid that discomfort. So can you explain like your concept of like the friction rep?
Man, you dropped some gems on that one. I had never really conceptualized the idea of the micro decision, the micro proof
Yes.
of like throughout the day. When that authentic voice of God comes into our head, that is the awareness. The authentic voice of God guides us very clearly, and we choose to listen and abide in action or not. And it's very being decisive and very deliberate about those things simplifies a lot. So I really like that, brother. And with this idea of this conceptual proving of your higher self every single day, you're challenged by these external frictions, right? This external, there's so many old principles. Iron sharpens iron, right? Pressure creates diamonds, right? Friction sharpens the blade. We somehow think we were immune from that. Bro, the worst times in my life when things got worse are when things were too good. That's the
Yep.
truth. And we always get softer. I don't care who you are. We always get a little bit softer when things are cush. We slip a little bit, eat a little bit more, we train a little less, we're in love or this and that. Now we're focusing, right? It's things are when we get better, when we feel those frictions, it is a paradigm shift of massive uh, massive production when you can take those frictions and recognize them as something good.
Mhm.
When you feel, oh, dude, you feel that job loss, man, I'm not saying you got to celebrate it, but you can see it as something beneficial, right? Oh, the relationship, something. Okay, well, I'm tracking on what's this doing. It's not going to take me off track. I'm not going to make this situation worse by leaning into comfort and pleasure like that we're hardwired for, mind you. And so recognizing that we're hardwired for that draw of sitting in the cave with the fire, eating the woolly mammoth meat, where it's safe. We're wired that way too because it's safe. And really, that's the mind telling you certain things. The soul and the spirit are the things that'll push you past the horizon and go back out in the dark, go hunting. So you're combating biological wiring, and that's fine. But recognizing that to combat that, you have to do it very deliberately. You have to be conscious that it's happening, and then you have to lean against what's really where you want to go. You want to do less, you want to procrastinate, you want to not work out, you want to not have that hard conversation because it's easier, but that's not the way. It's not the way. It's not the way to make anything happen. And it's not the way to make ourselves proud of ourselves, build our self worth, make our business better or our life better. And the more you consistently do that, then like you said, something along the line of flexing that muscle or working that out. It's you're training this thing. Think about people that never go into comfort. They deal with a lot of psychosis and neurosis because their comfort seeking and pain avoidance are the root of most of those things. And when we don't, so therefore, the opposite of that, seeking out hard things and challenging things, not just physically, but spiritually and emotionally. Well, guess what? That must be the opposite of that. So that must be where inner peace and clarity come from. And that we talked about alignment. That's really what alignment is. Alignment, right? Alignment. You know, people talk about this alignment like it's some fluffy thing. Alignment's really painful, actually. Alignment, but that doesn't mean because it's painful that you're not tapping into flow state and things aren't happening smoothly for you. The more you're leaning into these things, the more things seem to click into gear. And so that's how I see alignment is it's like this uphill walk with a rucksack on. It's like this you can't really stop. And the minute you stop, you really start to feel, you start tumbling down the hill and it happens pretty rapidly. At least for me it does.
Yeah. Oh man, I wanna summarize this because I think after I summarize this, I want to ask you about like your subtraction playbook as a place to land this.
Yeah.
But Andrew Huberman, I saw this, they did a study on this, and I get geeky about the brain. And to what you just shared, that muscle, right? If you don't
Yeah.
use it, it atrophies. But in your brain, it's called the angular mid-cingulate cortex. And it's the
Damn.
region of your central brain that's associated with willpower. And I love your friction rep, because everyone on the show has heard me talk about this before, but it's not a joke. They've studied this and proven that the only way that muscle gets flexed is when you do something you don't want to do.
Yeah.
And so when we think about ice baths or waking up early in the morning or all of it, that is the only thing that trains that muscle, is that friction
Yeah.
rep. And then the bigger the muscle gets, the more willpower and desire you have to live. And then, we talk about this, you and I are both men of faith, but even before I was saved, like chop wood, carry water, right? What
Yeah.
doesn't kill us makes us stronger by Scott Carney, right? Like all these
Yep.
things that we're surrounded by. And then even for me biblically, like I forget that my Bible doesn't offer happiness. It offers joy on the other side of suffering, because
Yeah. Damn,
literally,
that's
like in
good.
Isaiah, it talks about being refined in the furnace of suffering. And then in Malachi, how God removes impurities from us like he's cleansing metal through trials and suffering. And so
Yeah.
it, I know it's cheesy, but I've heard this quote for so long, and I know you know what it is, but like hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times.
Yeah.
And all of it
100%.
in all of history is falling back on, I'm pursuing pleasure and I'm trying to
Yeah.
remove friction in my life. And every single
Yeah.
time that comes, because to your point, whether it's if you're listening to this, whether it's business, you're like, oh, I've made it, everything's good. That is the biggest check engine light for me. Whether it's like, oh, my
Yeah.
fitness, I'm dialed, right? Or like my relationship's perfect. I'm like, I get scared because I'm like, there isn't that. There's the pursuit of it. But the moment you
Yeah.
rest on your
There isn't
laurels,
that.
it's dissipating, and by the
Yeah.
time you catch it, it's like a head-on collision of like, what happened? And I'm like, no, it's a slow roll when we
Yeah.
try to remove that right amount of pressure. And so I love the way that you describe that. And I think a good place for us to go is like, you have this subtraction playbook that you use, and I just released a podcast on this, of like using the month of November. So every
Yeah.
time you see the word no, you say no to something for your current moment that your future self will thank you for.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'd love for you to kind of like, we can land this plane around like, what is the subtraction playbook, right? Like my
Yeah.
inputs or my environment or my commitments. Like I would just love your wisdom and your gospel on that.
It's a pairing of all those things. The, Warren Buffett said the most powerful word he ever learned was no. I mean, I can
Mm.
imagine the amount of just external questions and things needed and wanted, right? And all he said no. And I think about this in my own life, and what somebody can easily do right now is think about the things you engage in the day. Start with the actual physical habits, your actual actions in the day. Write them down, or take a mental note if you're that lazy and you don't want to do it. Is how much time are you spending scrolling? Be honest, right? How much time are you spending looking at news that you're never going to affect anything and you really don't need to know about? How much time are you spending gossiping or speaking about anything? How much time are you spending? Really add those things up. They add up pretty quick. And then start looking at your purchases. What are you buying that you don't need? What are you eating that you don't need? Simplify your actual diet down. This what you're consuming here and here. Really start streamlining down and getting more deliberate about all the things you're doing. You'll find that your day will actually simplify quite a bit. And that's just the daily actions. On the habits, on the actual physical training. Sometimes people make their training so complex that they can't do it, they won't do anything. I go, dude, that goes back to your walking 15 minutes. They go, well, I'm training and thing, but I haven't gone for 3 days because I can't go to the gym. Well, guess what? Simplify it down and swing a kettlebell at your house and do some push-ups and call it, right? Just so you can kind of check that psychological box, because we're doing a frequency management. But your commitment. Now, this is a piece that I think people is hard because they'll feel like they're being selfish, and this goes into their kids too. Like I saw something, I had a client, he was talking about all these engagements. Man, these kids are doing all this and that. Your kids don't have to do all that, man. It's not being selfish. You do not need to spend $100,000 a year on your kids' hockey. You can, there's ways you're not saying no because you're selfish. You're saying no to certain things because they don't make sense. And
Mm,
it make things make sense and simplify down what you're committing to. I had a client, his wife committed to this PTA thing. They own a business together. She was gone. He was with the kids. It caused a whole bunch of havoc. And look, man, I get it. Sometimes it's a better job for somebody else. And just because you can doesn't mean you should. And saying no to commitments, people with family, they're like, hey, I don't want to feel like an, yeah, but do you want to go? Is it helpful for your spirit? Are you going to go and get into a big fight with your family and it's not an enjoyable experience ever? Well, maybe you should say no this year and at least give it a tactical pause. Doesn't mean, like, once again, it doesn't mean to have to be in forever. It just means give yourself a little time to simplify down where your bandwidth is going, what your bandwidth is being used on. We don't have much. And people are, and this is if your life is feeling a little bit chaotic. If you're crushing it and everything's good, cool, keep doing what you're doing. But if you're feeling like you're a little bit ahead of your skis and you're getting some speed wobbles and you're not taking care of yourself, or maybe you need to chop some commitments, and it's not being selfish, it's actually the most selfless thing you can do, because you're not helping anybody if you're barely treading water. Dude, there's so many people, like you said, just surviving, white knuckling the day, thinking that they're doing something by surviving the day. Dude, we're not supposed to survive the day, white knuckle it. You don't have any spiritual bounty to pour into anybody else. You're skidding into home plate and the couch at home, barely barely surviving it. Dude, that's not it. So simplify it down, trim the commitments, trim the movement, trim the food, trim the financial obligations. Get scorched earth with it. Use it as a practice to see how streamlined you can get your life.
yeah, man. I think, one thing you said is like, think about it if you're too lazy. But, a quote that Kate says all the time is like, what gets measured gets managed.
Yeah.
You can't measure in your head because we are the
Yeah.
king
True.
and queens
Yeah.
of
Of
gaslighting
rounding for our
ourselves
benefit. Yeah.
a
Yeah. Yeah.
100%, right?
Yeah.
And my friend Matt Vincent, and I love his philosophy. He measures his weeks in marbles, but he has a jar on his desk.
Oh, I like
And
that.
every week that passes, he drops a marble in, and like there's 1,612 marbles. And he's like, that's all I have if I live to the age of my father. And when we
Damn.
think about these things, we have a hard time because our brain is so good at rationalizing with ourselves. But if
Yeah.
you were to really like put down on a whiteboard or on a piece of paper and like map out 24 hours and without shame, just
Yeah.
document where you're
Yeah.
spending your time. And
Yeah.
you see it in front of you, all of a sudden you realize that the things that are getting the most time aren't actually aligned with where you want to be or what you want, or they're not providing long-term gain. They're temporary. But I have
Yeah.
learned of like taking that marble concept and like putting it in front of me on a whiteboard of like,
100%.
holy moly, like if that time block is currency, if that was like $1,000,000, would I spend it the same way? And I'm like,
Yeah.
absolutely not, right? I wouldn't
Yeah.
waste a second of that. Our time is more valuable than that currency. But if we just allow ourselves to ruminate and circle around the drain over and over, it
Yeah.
never becomes real and we get stuck in it. And I think
Yeah.
that like the way that yeah,
It's ambiguous.
yeah, it's massively ambiguous. And this is something that me, as like coming from being a Marine to like into entrepreneurship, I was convinced. I'm like, I don't need a process. I don't need I don't need discipline. Like, screw that. I'm not
Yeah.
waking up at 4 a.m. anymore. Right. And it was like I revolted the other way. But then when you really, really think about it, we overcomplicate the process. We are simple humans. And if we create a
Yeah.
simple math equation, when we do 1 + 1, it will equal 2, as long as we're putting the equation in place. But if we don't measure
Yeah.
it, everybody else dictates how we spend the time that is only ours to choose how to use. And I
Yeah.
think like I remember that movie, I don't remember the name, with Justin Timberlake, where like their life was in time,
Yeah.
right? And they had to like refresh their time. And I think we forget about that. Like if you're surviving your day, if you're like, oh, I made it through today, I'm like, what are you surviving for? So you can sit there and watch Netflix and then wake up and try to
Yeah.
survive again tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
And I find that. I find that sometimes too. And I'm like, wait, what's happening? And then God gives me this voice of like, get up. And I'm like, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Like, thank you for
Yeah.
speaking to me. Right.
Yeah.
And it's this
Keep
constant
designing.
pursuit. Yes. Yes. I love it. Right. Like it's even when like I metaphorically, I thought about it. I'm not artistic at all, but
Yeah.
I thought when I looked at like a bougie painting on the wall, I'm like, oh, they just painted that. And then I saw somebody painting and realized there were like 700 layers of paint below that
Yeah.
final picture. Right.
Yeah.
And it's this constant process of like adding to the picture of your life. Right.
Yeah.
Are you picking up a brush or are you just staring at it and expecting the picture to change? And
Yeah.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
metaphor really, like, when I saw it, I was like, "That's how you paint it? Holy
Yeah.
moly." I'm over here just thinking, like, "You just perfected this thing." He's like, "Bro, this is the 3rd painting on this canvas. There's
Yeah. Yeah.
thousands of layers underneath this." And I was like, "Oh," and he's
Yeah.
like, "I finally got to the point where I was ready to show it off." And I was like, "Man, if I just took that same philosophy into my life and I looked at the end of the day and I'm like, what colors did I paint with and where on the picture did I paint it?" And if I get honest with
Yeah.
myself, man, scrolling Instagram doesn't paint anything for me. Hiding on
Yeah.
Netflix doesn't paint anything for me. And so I can't be upset that the picture looks the same when I had access to a brush.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's another analogy I really like kind of on that artistic thing is you know, the sculpture's already there. The artist just removes the unnecessary parts, right? And I really like that too. It's like this designed life that you're building is already there. Now you just remove the parts that are holding you back from it. It's
Yes.
dude, it could be your own belief in self. It could be some bad relationship. It could be some vice. All these things that are like literally the anchor that's holding you back from achieving this next thing. It
Mm,
could literally just be the time suck of those things combined that aren't
mhm.
allowing you that you know, like I don't have any time. Yeah, you don't have any time because you're not allocating your time to the thing that you really need to be. And and here's the thing is it's not most people don't need massive drastic change. They need like a slight degree of shift. And that degree of shift ends up being quite a big distance on a long journey.
Bro.
And that's and I go, dude, it could be literally waking up an hour earlier, giving yourself some time. It could be literally starting to eat a little bit better that gives you that perspective shift and that self-worth building where you have that idea. Like the opportunity cost, this is what people don't calculate, is the opportunity cost of them doing the thing that they're currently doing. What opportunity are you missing? What
Mhm.
opportunity are you not getting that or some great idea or some whatever that you're not going to ever get because you're missing it and you're like I don't get a break. Yeah, you're not getting a break because you're not making your break and you're not making yourself available for it. So
Bro.
it's so simple but it's so hard because it really requires change. Fucking change is
Mhm.
we don't like it. Our physical body we combat it. We don't like it because it's not safe.
Mhm. Oh, dude, so well said. And I know we have to land this plane. And so where's the best place for people to connect with you?
My website's the best, taylorcavanaugh.com. That contact form goes right to my personal email, or they can get me on
Amazing.
Instagram, tcavofficial.
Amazing. And I'll have everything linked in the show notes. And I normally summarize the show, but I'm gonna let you take us out. So we got like 90 seconds or so. So for
Yeah,
the person listening right now that's like, oh, this landed, this resonated, like what's your
yeah.
parting wisdom of like if they could do one thing, like what would you have them do and focus on?
Wake up in the morning and take some alone time. And in that alone
Mm,
time, get honest with the areas you're failing. Get honest with the character flaws you have, some of the moral decisions, some of the procrastinations.
mm,
That little bit of honesty, and then make a choice about one thing you're going to change. Not all of them, because they're not all going to get fixed right away. Pick one thing that you're going to start changing that day, and start chipping away at it. And guess what? You don't need to get it all corrected yet. Do you have something you've been procrastinating on? Crack it open. I don't care if you write one word on that book you haven't written. One word. Start. Because as you see, there's no end state anyway. So don't try to be rushing there, man. Just start going in the direction. And then momentum begets momentum. And that inertia will start building.
oh, I love it, brother. I can't think of a better way to end the show. So for everybody listening, I'm going to take this as divine timing that if you heard this episode, there's something in your life for you to crack open. And as much as we wish we could come crack it for you, you're the only one who can open that box and you're the only one that can
Yeah.
take the action. I would ask yourself, when am I going to take the last reminder to take this seriously and realize no matter which way
Damn.
I run from it, no matter which way I hide from it, I keep hearing the same advice from the same books, from the same people. And at the end of the day, the fork is in my hand and I choose what I eat. And so I think the
Damn.
invitation is clear. What are you going to eat today? And are you going to thank yourself for eating it tomorrow? Or are you going to regret not putting the right food on that fork? And I think that that's where I'm going to leave everybody today. And so answer that question, take this as a sign, and most importantly, take action because you're worth it. And so I love you. This has been another episode of the Mind of George Show. We will either see you in the next episode or you will hear me in your earballs. But either way, we are out.